Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Malkin, with me, Bregaton. Let's continue exploring the forest. This time we'll head east, and see if we can find a path back north. As Donald turned a shady bend, another circle of roots, branches, and unnatural light burst from the ground. Defeat all enemies or end your turn with one of your characters occupying the portal tile. The Usher of the Moth rod is vulnerable to poison. The Young Witch absorbs one spell point from the elf candle when destroying it. Wisdom bonus increases this amount. She has like a truck. As we get our health back at the end of each combat, there's no reason not to summon her each time. Let's have the crow take out the elf candles so he stops getting spell power. Alexandrite. Wow. Alright. There we go. A decent enough armor class. Let's park here. And start whittling this guy down. What's that for the count? Wow, still just shy of taking him out. But good news. The young witch prevails. Moths flapped into the branchy green depths of the woods. Got a quick save, just to be safe. And another portal in our way. Another quick save. Another portal. Final brace for combat. I defeat all enemies. It's the same thing. Except for this time, the Usher of the Moth is vulnerable to electricity. The bigger map, too. I'm gonna soften him up and try to finish him off with not. Close, but no dice. Two down. Oh, she heals. Amber received. We tried. We got directly in the way of where I needed to be. Let's take this jokester out. Another portal closed. So I'm pretty sure we should have more experience than this, right? So we keep seeing that plus 30 experience pop up when we're exploring. More Bishop Satchel grew here. He collected some. I think we need some more healing items. I think this is back to where we started, right? Yeah. So another path east. We explored 10% of the map. Donald saw a flash of yellow through the trees and heard a whistling trill. He looked hard through the branches. The foliage moved. A rustling higher up, another flash of yellow. Then two orioles of yellow and gold trilled, darting out of the canopy and flew off together. See, another 30 experience. But it says, oh, it's split between all the party members. As Donald was walking through the forest, he came upon a boy walking the other direction. He was not older than 13 or so. He carried a small hatchet in one hand and a split log in the other. On his back was strapped a bundle of sticks. Pharaoh, sometimes shy around strangers, flew to a nearby tree to observe the meeting. When the boy saw Donald, he stopped dead in his tracks and eyed him warily. "Gathering firewood?" said Donald in a friendly tone. "Who are you?" "A traveler, an adventurer of sorts." "Oh. What's that?" the boy asked, pointing to something on the ground. There lay a perfectly normal gourd. Aha, thought Donald to himself. Eldest lady took care to keep naught secret. It's a gourd. It's rotten, he said. Though it didn't look rotten at all. Maybe he'd never seen one. I should go, he said abruptly, studying the sun through the trees. If Dad comes back, he'll be angry I'm not home. He hoisted his hatchet onto his shoulder and adjusted his satchel. Your father, who is he? The woodcutter. Then you take after him, said Donald, pointing at the hatchet. Mm-hmm. Doesn't he worry about you being out here by yourself? No. The Congress of Moths is out here, you know. Congress of... oh, them. They don't bother me. If you say so, farewell. The boy went off into the forest. The moment he was gone, Not rematerialized beside Donald. It took the promise of kernels, however, to coax Pharaoh from his perch. For Pharaoh's the one that has all the kernels, so... I found a hut. A way south. As you explore, you'll discover new landmarks. Each landmark is added to the map in the woods in your inventory. The witch can use the map to fast travel to these locations. This is always quicker than getting there by foot, but still takes some time, plus if he knows the lore of woodcraft. Using the map strategically is key to a successful adventure. Every new day begins at the witch's house, so the more landmarks you find, the more efficiently you can explore the woods. New landmark discovered. Forsaken Shack added to map. Let's quick save before we enter a place called the Forsaken Shack. The young witch entered a dilapidated shack. Nature was reclaiming it. A tree was growing through the roof. The ground beside the tree had sunken in. making a gaping hole in what would have been the floor. Even so, someone was there. So the witches had talked about a house with no floor. They mentioned an apple in its core. A man leapt to his feet as Donald came in, nearly tipping over the chair where he'd been sitting. With one hand he steadied it. With the other he drew a blade as if expecting an attack. But after a quick study of Donald's face, he let the weapon drop. He might have been less quick to let his guard down, if not had been visible, but the giant gourd was standing outside. "What are you doing here?" "Exploring. No, let's do this. I'm looking for someone. Are you a hunter?" "Do I look like a hunter?" He didn't. He was pale and flabby, and his clothes were town clothes. There was a bow made of yew and a quiver of arrows in the corner of the room, though. He saw the witch spot it. "Well, I have a bow, but I'm a bad shot. I've been eating nothing but berries since I came out here." The two exchanged names. His was Tylen. He knew nothing about Nen or hunters. When Donald mentioned the Congress of Moths, he laughed incredulously. He had a lilt that sounded old-fashioned or foreign. There was a curious blankness to him, too. The caginess of a fugitive, perhaps. When it came to the most obvious questions, why he was there and where he was from, he told the witch nothing. "You were quick to draw your blade when I came in. Why?" "It's that hole beside you. It makes me uneasy." "The hole? The hole in the floor?" "Yes, I can't go near it. Every time I try, I shrink back. It wasn't here before. The floor must have collapsed one night when I was sleeping. Can you see into it from where you are? Can you see the bottom?" Donald could. Rocks and debris from the house littered the area below, which was slick with moisture. There was nothing remarkable about it. Donald described what was at the bottom. "Really? That's all?" He seemed relieved. "Let me take a look." He started toward the hole, but faltered on the way. He began shaking, and Donald saw beads of sweat on his forehead. "I can't do it," he said. "Is there something down there you don't see? Something horrible?" I wonder if he's trying to trick me into it, but based on his physical reaction, I'm assuming not. Donald looked into the hole again. It was too dark to see much more. "I'd have to go down to see more." "I'd be grateful if you took a closer look," he said, slumping into his chair. He was fatigued and out of breath. He looked terrible. Donald wondered if he was ill. Plot hole. While investigating an old shack, young witch discovered a man hiding out there. His name was Tylen. He had an unusual fear of a hole in the floor of the shack, and said he'd be grateful if the witch could get to the bottom of it. Tylen was staring fixedly at the hole, and barely acknowledged Donald's approach. So inside the shack, time doesn't progress when we move around. The hole opened into a cavity at least as big as the shack. He pondered how to get down. A rock jutted out from the ground at the rim of the hole. If he could get a good grip on it, he might be able to drop down feet first. He decided to attempt it. He looked back at Nott, wondering if he'd follow and how Tylen would respond if he did. Nott became an ordinary gourd again and rolled toward the young witch. Tylen seemed none the wiser. He picked him up and stowed him away. Pharaoh cawed jealously. "Hush, Pharaoh. You can fly." Minimum 20% chance of an easy descent. Strength modifies. Then Donald grabbed a hold of the outcropping and swung over the side. Success! Donald had a sure grip. He steadied himself, then dropped, landing with a splash and a few inches of running water. Part of the hole fell in, bringing some of the floor with it. but he managed to avoid the debris. Hello? Can you hear me? Shouted Tylen from above. Yes, still here, Donald shouted back. More of the ground gave way. Indeed it did. Then he began to look around. Okay, I don't think I noticed these little blue markers before. I guess points of interest. Climbing out the way Donald came in would be difficult, but the cavern continued east over dark, gently moving water. Maybe there was an exit that way. But Donald wasn't done here yet. The young witch came upon a hole. In he went, then out his soul. If souls there were, but souls there ain't, a body's enough to taint. Okay, this time the Usher of the Moth Rod is vulnerable to fire. Everything else is the same. Oh, the avocados can move. I had no idea. I hadn't even considered that. Alright, making progress. Kyanite received. Nice. The moss disappeared in the darkness. They had come out of nowhere and vanished into it as quickly. Unsettling as the Congress was, something told Donald they were not the source of Tylan's unease. Indeed not. There was a pile of bones in this part of the cave. It was hard to say how long they'd been there. Donald examined them. The heap was once a single skeleton. Part of the skull was missing, and the rest was crushed. This person had met a violent end. Moldering rags clung to the bones. The pile made him uneasy. Did Tylan know about it? Was this the source of his apprehension? He lifted the rags. Donald felt a wave of repulsion, and stepped back as if struck. The bones were strewn with charms against witchcraft. Very old charms, but still potent. Powdered hexbane, pages from witch hunters' tracks, alder branches tied into X's with leathern cords. Knot caught his body before it crumpled to the floor. Alright, minimum 20% chance of success, intelligence modifies. Mustering up all his disdain for these trifles, he tried to scatter them. Donald swept the darnable things across the floor, dispersing the potent aura they'd all gathered together. Tylan was no witch, and the items shouldn't have any effect on him. As Donald looked at the bones, he felt a new uneasiness. Among the bones was a knapsack stiff with moisture. Donald opened it. Inside was a vial of blue flask, famous for its shelf life, that he took. The knapsack also contained a curious rock flecked with a lodestone, Donald decided, absentmindedly pocketing that too. It was cold to the touch, almost freezing. Then he saw a piece of parchment in the skeleton's hands. What's this? The young witch wondered. It was moldy but still legible. The writing on it was in a rough, unskilled hand. This is what it said. May no witch disturb this man's bones. I am cursed already for what I did not call his ghost to curse me more. Though he was my brother, he took my share of things and made it his. To these woods he came to flee my vengeance. Tylan was his name, may he never wake. Tylan was a ghost. There had been clues, the blankness, the fixation, the sickness. But the dead are always shrouded in some way. That shroud keeps the living oblivious until it falls. The temperature in the cavern dropped. What was slick with moisture went slick with ice. At the same time, the lodestone in Donald's pocket began burning like a hot coal. Receive Lore of Hauntings experience. How many years did I sleep here and dream I slept upstairs? My brother's dead by now. All his vengeance spent, long past, and mine's long overdue. I hope his children's children keep their windows open. I will gnaw their bones. The ghost vanished. A huge black dog took its place. It howled and leapt through the cavern roof, leaving the young witch alone with Tylan's bones. A black dog represents death in several cultures. Celtic is first one that comes to mind. The ghost. Tylan was a ghost. He appeared in spectral form after the young witch discovered his remains. He vowed revenge on his brother's descendants, turning into a black dog, and leapt away. We found a few items that I haven't gone over. So Alexandrite acid, I guess, is another one we could throw, right? Yeah, 7 acid damage. Same with amber. Bishop Satchel heals for how much? 6. Iron recovers 3 spell points. The Kyanite does cold damage. And a lodestone. The young witch took this lodestone from the skeleton of Tylan. It was hot to the touch when Tylan's ghost appeared. Not now. Okay, so that'll warn us when he's near, I assume. Also, I want to swap some of my equipment around. I think for my main character, we'll go with the longsword. Maybe not yet. At some point, I want to give not. Yeah, let's keep him with the quarterstaff because it increases his armor class, and he is our primary frontliner. I want to give him the Blackthorn staff. This +1 to all defenses, but since I use health to cast spells with my current character, I think it's better on him. So keep that as is for now. Whoops. Yeah, that keeps happening where you click once and it clicks through multiple dialogue options. Not followed without complaint. I mean, go back and look at the chat log. I didn't think about that last time. Donald couldn't resist dipping his hands in the icy water. It looked clear and pure. And so it was. Let the spring take away a bit of the journey's filth and the last hour's uneasiness. He made a swift, idle motion with one hand under the water and watched the bubbles form around it. The cold of the water was salutary after the chill of Tylen's grave. It was good to have flesh. They passed on while Pharaoh supervised from Donald's shoulder. The spring fed the stream Donald had seen outside, and there was an opening just large enough for him to squeeze through, right under some old tree roots. He saw a narrow passage to the south, also filled with water. It seemed to run parallel to the stream. Yeah, he explored the narrow passage. Perhaps the cave had more secrets. The passage tightened until Donald was forced to crawl. There was nothing to discover at the end of it. A relief, in a way. He left the cavern. It was a squeeze, but Donald got out without too much trouble. He looked back to see how Knot would manage with all his bulk. A seemingly normal gourd floated lazily out on gentle ripples. Knot stood in its place a moment later. Like the details around Knot. If we go back, how do I look at my chat log? Yeah, the young witch returned to the spring. Donald began marching through the water, not followed without complaint. Can I go back to the previous... like where I played yesterday? Nope. Can't go that far back. Well, that's okay. Alright. I'm gonna call it here. Next time we'll continue south. And continue exploring the forest. We made some decent progress this time. Have we still not... yeah, still a ways off from leveling up. So we can actually look at our lores here. So winter attunement. Some witches are attuned to one of the 4 seasons. A witch attuned to winter has the following features. +2 wisdom and +2 constitution starting bonuses. -1 charisma and -1 dexterity starting penalties. And 5% cold and 5% magic resistance starting bonuses. Tier 2. Additional +20% cold resistance and 20% magic resistance. And Tier 3. -2 attack bonus +4 spell points. And Tier 4, +1 wisdom and +1 constitution. And swordplay. We've read the description for that, or the poem. So it begins with a sword, normally forbidden to witches. You can use powerful swords found during the game. It's a free attack against an enemy in melee contact, after destroying another enemy in melee contact. See, I didn't know that. I'm glad I'm reading this now. You can cast the exclusive spell Secrets of the Stolen Blade. Gain +3 attack bonus for 3 rounds, costs 2 spell points, we've seen that. It has access to the following when leveling up. So tier 2 +1 attack bonus melee. Tier 3 option +1 attack per turn. And tier 4 +1 strength and +1 constitution. And hauntings. I think we just got that from the event in the shack. Or no, it was summoning in... What was our, starting lores? By the way, hauntings. There are no gods, only ghosts. The ancestors are silent, but the leaves tremble in autumn. The past must die many times. So it adds unique options to certain interactions. Young Witch gains 50 additional experience from every encounter with a ghost or spirit. Charisma does not affect this amount. You cast exclusive spell Wicked End. Okay, so we do start with that. Summons a minion with a swordplay ability who remains in combat until slain. It costs 9 hit points. It has access to the following when leveling up. Tier 2 +1 hit point. Tier 3 +1 hit point +1 spell point. And Tier 4 +1 wisdom and +1 constitution. Interesting. Okay. Not going to read the rest of them yet. We can look at them when we level up. Okay, I'm gonna call it here. Next time we'll continue exploring the forest. But for now, thanks for watching. I'll just see you guys in the next one.